Welcome, everyone. Episode 2 of the Parallel Physiques podcast with Coach Kenneth
So,
and Coach Laura. And today we are bringing to you a conversation, which is what this is, right? It's a conversation between two coaches. Sometimes we're going to bring guests on, sometimes it's just going to be the two of us, and we're going to answer questions. But today we told you we'd talk about habits. And habits are so important. We were talking before we started today about the fact that um, we all have habits. Like our entire lives are just comprised of habits 24/7. That's what we do. So, and as coaches, that's really what we're dealing with our clients is creating new habits or getting rid of the old ones, however you want to look at it.
right. And Laura is much better at it than I am. She she's always she's primarily Gen Pop. I'm bodybuilding and Gen Pop functional health stuff. She is too. She just doesn't do the bodybuilding side. So I've been a bodybuilder for 12 years or so. For me, habits in terms of like following a meal plan, you know, getting your sleep, training, drinking your water, uh, that stuff, it's always come easier to me because it's been a part of my life for 12 years. And when you look at it from a perspective of, from me, like me to a Gen Pop client, I can always meet them where they are. It's not that I can't do that. It's
Hmm.
that I don't necessarily understand all the time why eating their meals is a problem, right? Because it's never a problem for me. And then Laura has been helpful in our relationship as colleagues where she's like, okay, you're not looking at this right. We have these ladies or these men who need, basic level lifestyle changes. And I'll give Austin some credit here too. He's our mentor, and Austin has been like, "Hey man, like, some people from a mental side don't have the capacity to enter into the things that you want for them or what's best for them. They have to baby step into the process." And so I've learned that over the last, I'd say, year more
Hmm.
than I have anything else, and really understanding how important habits are in the success of the outcome that we're chasing down.
Right.
Right.
Well, and true, like your habits, if you think about it, all the things with there's the water, the meals and things that you talked about, that's pretty, I would suggest from your perspective, it's just very normal for you because you've done it. I mean, how long have you been in bodybuilding? You said the last 12 years. So like mid 20s you started doing bodybuilding things, but you were probably thinking about it well before then.
Yeah, I would say in college I'd been thinking about it, that's early 20s.
Hmm.
And then when I graduated college, I really took lifting seriously and I tried to learn nutrition. I mean, I remember I was doing keto like
Ooh, keto before keto was popular.
so I was doing keto in the worst kind of way. Um,
Which I would
because
suggest a lot of people do keto in the worst kind of ways.
well, yeah, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. In fact, I think the advice I was getting was from a gym buddy of mine who was just bigger than me. So, like, I was like, well, if I follow what he says, then I'm just going to get big like he is. And little did I know that, like, I was not eating enough. I was not. There was no nutritional value in what I was doing at all. I think it was
Right.
like primarily eggs and Kraft singles cheese is what I
Oh,
would do. Yeah, it was a terrible thing.
yeah.
So, you know, I I was coming to my own in my trying, and I was searching for information for myself,
Mhm.
and my habits were changing based on my identity. My identity was changing too. It was like, I want to be, I think initially it was like I want to build muscle.
Mhm.
I wanted to build muscle because curls are for the girls, right? Like,
Right.
you want to be attractive, and so
Yeah,
that was
sure.
probably the driving force behind that. And then I started going to bodybuilding competitions, and I just remember sitting there with a couple of these guys, and they were so gigantic,
Mm,
and in relative terms, are yeah, they're big, but like now that I know what I'm looking at, it's a little bit different.
yeah.
Um, so then I started aligning myself and putting myself in environments that allowed me to learn more about where I wanted to go.
Right.
So that's where we find our clients.
Right.
They know they have an outcome that they're chasing down,
Yeah.
and they know they need to make changes. Some of them don't understand the extent of
Right.
changes.
Right.
And then, but they're at least with us trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But you're a really good master at figuring out, okay, we got Nancy here. Nancy's a fictitious person, and Nancy is really, really bad off from either a mental health standpoint, or like her diet is just completely horrific. Her sleep is terrible. All of these low hanging fruit things as a coach that we look at, it's like those things have to get cleaned up. And it's not like I didn't know those types of things,
Oh, for
but I
sure.
didn't know the why as to why these people weren't like, you know what? I should probably fucking sleep 8 hours a day.
Right.
So it get, the frustration, like I'd be super frustrated. And it's not that Laura doesn't get frustrated. She gets
Oh
frustrated. That
no. Oh
smile's
yes.
always on her face. So, but what I'll say is like, she was just very instrumental, and Austin was very instrumental too, because I do want to give him credit, um, for saying, hey, not everyone's coming from the same place, and not everybody's prepared to jump into a gut protocol. Not everybody's prepared to jumping into a meal plan,
Yeah.
but you almost baby step everybody.
I do. I really, yeah, honestly. Yeah.
And I think that's actually probably more beneficial for everybody.
Could be. I think, like you say, right? It depends on the person. Like for you, and you have a lot of people come to you who are similar to you, who want to jump in. Like there are people who just want to jump in, go hard, right? You know, those
Yeah, but
people are
they
like
do, but
all
it's
in.
not like it's not my way, right?
Right,
So,
right, right.
so what
But
I'll say is like our way, like the way you and I coach, and the way
yeah,
that Austin coaches, and the like, we're the outliers.
yeah,
It's becoming more popular, and things are starting to make more sense within the industry. But like some of these people are coming from other coaches
yeah,
with like PTSD,
yeah,
like, well, I was supposed to I'm just going to I'm going to be on an incline stairmaster for the next 72 days for 4 hours a day, and I'm not going to eat anything because I need to lose weight. And it's like,
yeah,
whoa, 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 whoa.
yeah,
That's a person that wants to jump right into it,
yeah.
but I have to baby step them into my process, into your process,
Right,
right?
right.
Um,
Well, and too, like you were talking about with your background, my background, where I come from is similar but very different, right? Because and we were talking about this before, where most of our habits as adults come from our childhood and our home and where we grew up and how we grew up, right? And we created habits without knowing we were creating habits as kids, because you just do what you have to do to get by, right? And then we take those habits into adulthood, and we don't even think about the fact that it doesn't have to be this way. Like we can change this. We get to make it, like you were talking about, find your identity, like you did. You're like, nope, this is what I want. And most people just don't do that. They just, go, go, go. And when I came out of like my family of origin, I was smoking. I enjoyed drinking when I got to that age. Well, maybe a little bit before. And 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 also though, not only was I actively involved in creating those habits that I saw in my family of origin and with my friends, and I continued to do those into my 20s, but then there were habits that I had that I didn't know. Like I was unaware that I was actually anorexic. I was unaware that I was actually bulimic. Like I wasn't eating enough, and I was using exercise as a bulimic, a piece to the bulimia. I thought bulimia was throw up. I wasn't going to do that, man. Right.
it was a coping mechanism.
Oh, for sure. Oh, it was all about control. And I didn't know any of that, right? It takes years to get through that. How did I start getting through that? Well, like you said, I started to look at, who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And are the things I'm doing right now serving me still? Am I getting something, or are they hurting me? This is what I talk about with my clients, just like you said, you baby step it. Because if I was going to change everything at one time, like you were saying, someone who wants to go all in, that's not going to work. You're going to get so overwhelmed and try to be perfect and do you just, that isn't how anything works. Right?
No, you're right. You're right.
Nothing.
And in fact, I just got off the phone with a person who's a client where I just had this conversation where, she's in a place where she's been a competitor in the past. She knows what a healthy lifestyle looks like. The last 9, 10 months has been hell on earth for her. Her whole entire identity's been shifted. She hasn't lifted weights in that period of time. She hasn't eaten healthy in that period of time. She's picked up really poor habits. And the conversation was more of, yeah, like let's get back on track. Let's start working together again.
Mm.
But I'm not throwing you into a meal plan.
Right.
Because you can't even eat.
Yeah.
Like you're not even, you're snacking. Like that's your meals all day. And
But society tells us we should snack all day, Kenneth. Come on.
but it's like, okay, well, how much protein did you intake today? Like
Right.
you don't have the answer. But if you would have asked her 10 months ago, 12 months ago, how much protein did you have? She'd be like, bam, bam, bam. So like we have to get back to the mindset, maybe clean it up a little bit where it's a little bit more healthy. Because I think she went from extreme to extreme. We can see people do that from time to time. But she has this identity over here, and now she's now got this identity. She threw away this one. Now she wants to step into this one, or she threw away this one and she's in this one, but she wants to step back into this one. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, now with her, I'm going to have her write down every single habit that she has all day.
Right.
So like if you wake up at 8 o'clock, I wake up at 8, I use the bathroom, I drink coffee, I cook my breakfast. Yep. It typically looks like this. Yep. And then from those types of things, I can now say, okay, this is a plus or a minus, or this is benign. It doesn't matter. It's not affecting who we want to be.
Right.
So if it's a negative, that's a minus sign. If it's a positive towards that outcome that we want, that identity that we want, then we're labeling that. And then now I can go and say, okay, client, I want you to take this little habit of protein in every meal.
Right.
Actual meat, right? Like
please don't eat a protein bar.
Take your fist.
Yes.
And get that much meat in every meal.
Yeah.
And now we're winning. And then now, so I think there's a few things that are happening. That habit's going to contribute to an identity shift. Yeah. Slowly. But it's a dopamine hit.
Oh, for sure. In multiple
ways. They're like,
ways.
oh shit, I fucking nailed that this week. Habit, done. Yeah. So, and then when you build those, and it's funny, I had another client post literally yesterday, and he looks so good. He looks so good. He is a machine. And he's like, I stack wins all day long. Yeah. The more wins you stack, then the more successful I am.
So the key, right, there's the key to what we do. There's the thing that people need to understand is human nature, and there's tons of research out there, right? Like, let's go back in human nature, right? What we know is physiologically, we are not in the 21st century. Our bodies are still back on the plains, or, in caveman days, where we had to hunt and forage for our food. We had to kill game. We had to worry about shelter. We had to worry about things coming and killing us, right? So physiologically, that's where we're at, right? So what we normally do, our normal like baseline as human beings, is to look at our day and look at the minus signs, the negatives, the ways that we didn't win, the ways that we failed, the ways that we stumbled, the ways, all of those things is what sticks in our brain. Like, think about it. People who have anxiety, that's all that is the constant over and over and over again of all the ways I could have done something differently or said something different, or who's going to come at me for this, that you do all day. What you're doing for your client, and what I do for my clients, what us good coaches do, is we go, I'm going to give you an opportunity for wins every day. Here's your opportunity. And then you get to check the box. And when you check the box, I'm going to celebrate with you. Like, we're winning, and I'm going to point out those wins to you all the time. So your client gets a dopamine hit because they get to check the box, but they also get you as a dopamine hit.
Yep.
Bang, look, I made my coach proud. Look, they smiled. Look, they hit me with a note that said, you're a rock star. Like,
You
all
know
those
what?
things.
I don't want to interrupt you here, but
Go ahead.
like I am in a place where I am surprised at how much people care about what I think.
Right? I
I was shocked. So I've had a couple of people like on my list on my roster who are like, one day I just want to make it on your Instagram page. And I'm just like, in response, I'm thinking, well, follow the damn plan. Follow the plan so I can put you on my page. Because I want you on there too. But like the people have these, they want to belong.
Mhm.
They want somebody to be proud of them. And what I realize is like, sometimes I'm the only one that's proud of them.
Yeah.
Like in their entire day or in their entire week or their entire life. And
Mhm.
like some of the encouragement and just the little bits of encouragement. I mean, I even feel this way about Austin, right? Like Austin can be a guy who's like, he's very intentional. So like when I do my check-in, he always writes me a check-in that's that long, and he responds to every single thing that I talk about.
Mhm.
And I try to do that as a coach. I'm not always great at it,
Mhm.
but it makes people feel like you're listening. So he does a really good job of making me feel like he's listening. But man, it doesn't take much for him to be like, "Oh man, you did a great job." I mean, I will hold on to, "Man, you did a great job,"
Yeah.
for like a 6 month period of time.
Yeah.
And I realize like, okay, I might have that same effect,
Yeah.
and I need to probably be better about encouraging during and hitting. It's the small stuff. The big stuff, now I'm grandiose. Like I can be like, oh wow, like when Lisa was in prep and
Yeah.
she just dropped, you know, 3 pounds overnight. Man, I'm dancing a jig,
Mhm.
and we're talking about that win. But the win that I didn't talk about was all the habits that she had nailed
Right.
to get to that 3 pound drop.
And you know
That
what?
was
And
a
I was,
subject and off
yeah.
subject. So sorry.
No, no, you're right though, because that's what that's what we're talking about though is, and I just had this conversation with a client yesterday, is like, we have this goal, this
Mhm.
big goal or this outcome that we want to see. And a lot of people are like 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds, whatever it is. Right. And the problem is we hold on to that goal and that's all we look at. That goal isn't going to we're not going to get there just looking at the goal,
Mhm.
right? It's all those little habits that we stack one on top of each other. And the habits, that means it's consistent. We do it every day or we do it consistently. And that's what gets us to the goal. That goal is just sitting there. There's no action involved in the goal. The action is what we do and those habits that we have. And like, I think the biggest thing you're talking about right here, which is really the first step in creating new habits or getting rid of old habits, is being aware
Yes.
of those small steps and those small pieces, like you're talking about with Lisa. Like, you want to be more aware of celebrating those things. People need to be more aware of, what are they?
Well, and that's what caused her to be so successful,
Mhm.
because there was a point where we had a conversation where the awareness had to shift to like, oh, I wasn't doing, you know, she was eating meal prepped meals by a company,
Mhm.
and it wasn't cooked by her.
Right.
So it wasn't controlled, but she thought she was hitting the macros because, well, that's what the label said. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, it's like part of the process, part of her process is I need you to cook the meals so that we can hit the macros every day.
Yeah.
Macros get really intricate in a
Hmm.
prep scenario. And then that's super important. And that's going to give us the outcome. But the shift, the identity shift was, or the mentality shift was, what would a pro do?
Right.
What would a successful bodybuilder do? And so this last client that I just got off the phone with, who's coming back to kind of, get healthy and all these other things, it was a conversation of, okay, what would a healthy person do in every scenario that
Yes.
you encounter?
Yep.
And then when you pick the right answer, you should feel good
Yes.
because it's a vote. Every habit is a vote for the outcome or the identity that you're looking for.
Yeah. And you know that I just love that you said that, because that is what I do with my clients and myself. I do it with myself. I do it with
Oh, you
myself
kill
every
it.
day.
You kill that's the other thing I was going to tell you. Um, every once in a while you'll slip in with this like, hey, I did this. And because we talk every day at the length of time that I talk, I don't praise you enough. You're completely changing
Oh, you're so kind.
from a coach perspective. Like as your coach, like you are drastically changing.
Hmm.
And I don't think you realize how much you've changed an athlete because at the beginning of the year, you're one stubborn, you're
Yes,
stubborn one.
I
And
am.
now you're like, oh, now I'm understanding. Now I'm stitching these habits together. And now you're in an uncomfortable spot. We talked about that a little
Hmm.
bit. You're a little uncomfortable, but we talked about why to a degree.
Hmm.
And sometimes because you're a coach and I'm a coach, I don't always communicate to you the details, and that's on me, but I need to do that too. But you do that, and that translates with your clients so well because you identify with your clients.
Oh, for
I
sure.
don't. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know what this crazy person's doing.
You know,
They're not following the plan.
it's so funny though that you say that, because I will tell you that my clients, and I have to have this conversation, like, I struggle too, right? They're like, no, you don't. I'm like, oh my God, I struggle. I
Well, and the
struggle all
reason
the
why they have
time.
that perception is because you're walking in fucking 15-degree weather every morning to get your steps in.
And dang it, it
And
snowed.
you're smiling.
It
You're like
snowed
taking a
again. I know.
selfie, smiling, and everybody's like, "Well, she's a soldier."
No, you know what it is? It's the habit, right? And if you get out of the habit, also, I am a little bit crazy about the movement, right? Let's go back. Let's go back to what my
Yeah,
habits
okay,
were.
you're obsessive about that. Yeah.
I'm a little, I'm a little, so that's interesting too, right? Our habits can, like we talked about, they can serve us and they don't. And what you and I have worked on a lot this year for me, because I'm super type A, I like, is backing off and relaxing. And I have clients, lots of my female clients, I have to talk to them about, you need to stop doing everything.
Yeah, and I think not always internally processing too,
Yes, that's big. That's
because
big.
those internal processors, like, okay, let's say we have a list of habits and they don't hit but two
Hmm.
during the day, they're beating themselves up.
For sure.
And that's not what needs to happen. It needs to be it's interesting. I don't know who said this, but I was at nationals. I don't know if I was on Instagram, if I was hearing a conversation, but I was at nationals this past weekend, watching Austin compete, and one of the guys said, "Oh, I know what it was. It was Cliff. Cliff Wilson prepped Austin the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks for his show. He's an excellent coach, and he said, what makes the difference with people who are reaching their goals or who are champions is when they fail, they get back up
Mm.
and they try to achieve the little tiny habits,
Hmm.
not the next day,
Right away.
immediately.
Yep.
So I failed to eat my first meal. Don't throw your whole day away.
Yep.
Just get on your second meal.
Yep.
Put that first meal away and say, you know what? I can't do anything about it. Maybe you can fit it in. I don't know. But maybe you can't. So
Mhm.
ultimately, like that's a decision you have to make.
Yeah.
And getting back on the horse is important.
And that's what we talk about, right? Is giving yourself grace and saying, I'm just gonna do this one thing. Like we
Yep.
talked about, little habit. It's that one meal, it's head down, one thing, one thing,
100%.
one thing, one thing. And you just keep doing that. And when you don't, that's when you say to yourself, I didn't do that. Like, and we talked about this earlier about like saying it out loud. I didn't do that.
Oh,
I am
yeah,
now
the
going to,
like
right?
pointing out, and the other thing too, like we were let's talk about this. You know what I'm talking about.
My downfall.
Yeah, and your husband's downfall.
Oh, peanut
And
butter
yeah, eating it out of the jar.
out of the jar.
So, I
I
mean,
will eat it out of the jar with any utensil I have. Fork, spoon, knife, this, any utensil.
have you ever taken a spatula and just scraped?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know years ago, fessing up is fess up time. I used to for my lunch. Now I was part-time instructional coach and I had a yoga business and all these things. I did all the things. I would come home from work at the school and I would sit down in front of the television and I would have a jar of peanut butter and a jar of jelly. And I would have a spoon. The key is not that anybody should do this. So don't try this at home. You have to be a professional. Scoop the peanut butter first because then you can get just enough of the jelly to stay on the peanut
Because the
butter.
jelly will fall into the peanut butter, and you don't always want jelly with your peanut butter,
You
but you
don't.
always want peanut butter with your jelly.
Yes, you have to keep the peanut butter clean and pure.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
right.
the key.
So the thing that we need to do now that you have a serious problem that I
I
didn't
don't do
mean,
that anymore. I don't do that.
but that's I don't know, that's lurking. I think
No,
that's lurking.
no, I don't even have jelly in the house.
I'm just kidding. But
Okay, I do have
so
peanut butter.
let's say you and Joe are sitting in the kitchen, you're having a conversation, and Joe's just taking it, just eating it out of the jar,
Yep.
and you're tempted.
I don't. I use no. That doesn't happen.
You're by yourself.
If yeah, it's always by myself.
All right, so if you're by
Because if I
yourself,
see him doing it, what is that makes in my head? I go, oh, that's not right.
you're judging him.
No.
That's so that's this is such a double standard. So no, what you do now is you say out loud, Laura, you're getting ready to eat peanut butter out of the jar with a spoon.
Yes.
When you say that out loud, it's like, well, it kind of lost its luster and you don't necessarily want to do it anymore.
Yeah. And then I can't. And I will say that to myself. I can't do this. I can't do this. And then I have to get a
So,
container and I have to weigh it out and do the thing.
and it's so stupid too. Like that sounds like a stupid thing to do. Like it sounds like a menial thing, like it doesn't really matter. But if you
You
do it,
mean saying it out loud?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't
But
think, I mean, like, how many times can you imagine like being a fly on the wall in someone's house and they're just like getting ready to eat all the cookies on the counter and they're like, I'm getting ready to eat all the cookies on the counter.
people have those. They have the like ring things or whatever in their house. I do not, but some people, right? That would be crazy. But think about it though. Think about now, and we're kind of going long, so maybe this will be another time. But when you said that, what we do, we work with mental health all the time, and you and I talk about this all the time. Like most of our conversations when we talk to our clients are about psychological things, not
Yes.
necessarily about, oh, your macros or your movement, right?
Yeah.
Saying it out loud, anything. You've been in therapy, I've been in therapy. Probably I need to go again. I don't know. But think about what do they say? Saying it out loud is so powerful.
Well,
Whatever it
it
is.
changes the reality
Yes.
because
Yes.
in your head, you've created reality that you want whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
But when you say it out loud, it hits different. It's the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is if you're eating peanut butter out of the jar, it's not going to go well.
And it's really not about the peanut butter in the jar.
Mm-mm.
Right? When we choose the habits that don't serve us, it's not about the habit. It's about what we're attaching to the habit.
Yeah, it's a comfort thing, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
For
somebody's
sure.
in a bad spot and they're like, well, what do I do when I feel this way?
Yep. And so that's why, as coaches, we don't let people take on 12 different habits at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Like with your girl, you're like, we're going to attack one thing at a time. And when I get a new client, I look at everything and we have a conversation and I'm like, and it's usually protein
Yes.
and or water. I'm like, we're going to attack these. This is what we're going to get. And we're going to work on it for the next 2 weeks, right? It's that small thing. Because if you look at everything, because it is more about the thing attached to it.
Yes.
So we have to bring up aware, like we just started initially with this, is we have to bring the awareness of the habits. And then we create, we say, okay, let's work on this one habit. And boy, we're probably going to find some things going on that we need to talk about in terms of psychological things attached to those habits.
It's baby steps.
It's baby steps. That's all it is.
Yeah, you killed this one.
No, you killed this one. We killed it.
It's good.
So end note, choose one habit, one thing, and it can't be hard, right? It's not like I'm going to run every day. Like, no, don't go from the couch to the, running shoes, but it's choose one habit. Like think about
and attach it to a current habit. So like if you drink coffee every morning
mm-hmm.
and meditation is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do 10 minutes of meditation as soon as you pour your coffee, waiting for it to cool down.
That's a good one.
And if you set a time frame, you set a place. So I'm going to make my coffee. While I'm waiting for it to cool, I'm going to meditate on my couch in my living room.
Yeah.
And then that makes it a lot easier to do that. And then that meditation might breed another habit that's healthy. Then that breeds another habit that's healthy.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's a snowball effect.
Yeah. And one of the things I do, speaking of coffee, just to jump off that, and then we'll be done, is drinking coffee in the morning. If you need to add protein to your day, put a scoop of protein powder in your coffee.
Bingo.
Stir it up. And there's your flavor. I mean, me personally, I don't like the flavor of regular coffee. So you can add flavor without adding junk, like just creamer and stuff.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah. So, hey, look, whoever y'all drinking coffee out there, we just gave you 2 opportunities to do some habit stacking right there.
Yeah. Right.
I think we've gone long enough today. I think we hit kind of a good stopping point. I think we should come back to habits for sure, because it's a deep, there's so many layers to creating good habits. And that's always where we start with our clients every day.
We want to invite somebody on, maybe talk about this too.
We should invite someone.
I'll be working on that.
Let's work on that. All right.
Okay.
Y'all have a great week. Have a great weekend, Kenneth. You do the same. And I'm sure we'll be talking. Why not?
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
All right, everybody. Yeah. Have a wonderful day. And we will see you on the next episode of the Parallel Physiques podcast.